Good afternoon, everyone, friends, and whoever is on the screen. In collaboration with Delhi Book Fair and KW Publishers, we are very excited in inviting Major General Dr. G.D. Bakshi to this program. General G.D. Bakshi does not need any introduction. Nevertheless, his brief is, in short, and I'll just read it through quickly, is that he's a combat veteran with considerable experience in Kargil, Kishwar, and Rajouri sectors of Jammu and Kashmir. He is a renowned military historian and a prolific writer, and we are very happy to say that we have published most of his books, and he has more than 37 titles now, I think, to his library. He's India's most popular commentator, which you must have seen ever so often, and on military matters and many other thoughts. I'm happy to have been part of his journey in writing, and we would now like to address with him. The topic of today is the true story behind COVID. General Bakshi has written this book, which we are very happy to show you now on the Thunder Dragon. It's a beautifully written book. It's a non-fiction for various reasons. He couldn't really speak his true mind directly. And I would like to now ask General Bakshi to give us his thoughts on why he wanted to write this book in this genre. Sir.
Thank you, Kalpana ji. Thank you so much. And for all your support of you and the Knowledge World team in bringing out my books. My books have now reached 40. so, so that shows that I have been busy after my retirement. You know, the COVID pandemic has been one of the most significant black swan events in the last 100 years. It has led to over 203 million people being affected globally, and about almost 4 billion people have died. You see, and that is created a devastation. It has devastated the global economy, which has taken a hit of over $2 trillion. In fact, the impact of this has been much worse than the Great Depression of the 1930s, which preceded the Second World War. In India itself, we have some 3.5 crore people infected, and about 3.2 lakhs are dead. They have died. You see, almost every family has lost some dear one, including ours. So, therefore, we have to get to the bottom of this. What caused it? How is it suddenly come about? How is it that the mutations are happening? It started in China, but there are no mutations in China. The mutations are only in India, they are in UK, they are in other countries which are inimical to China. So it has raised a lot of question marks, and this is what led us to examine as military experts. We hope it is not a biological warfare exercise that China has undertaken. And when we started doing that research, we were we were we were shocked to hear, or we were shocked to find out that there is so much circumstantial evidence to the effect that this is not a natural epidemic. This is a deliberately created, genetically manipulated virus which has been created in a lab petri dish and then accidentally or deliberately released. So let us examine this scenario. Let us examine this scenario. When this thing happened in 2019, in early 2020, in the Lancet magazine, which is one of the most prestigious medical journals, about 27 microbiologists got together to say that, oh, this is a natural pandemic. It has arisen from the Wuhan wet market. We have to get to the bottom of this. The earliest after the epidemic, the scientific opinion was this is a natural zoonotic epidemic which has happened in nature, and it has spread from bats to humans via some third animal. There is never a direct transmission. There is always through a animal. For example, the SARS virus, it came from bats, to civet cats and then to humans, right? The Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, the MERS pandemic, that came to you via bats, camels, and humans. And these intermediary links were discovered in a matter of months. The civet link was discovered in 4 months. The camel link was discovered in 8 months. Now it is almost 2 years since this epidemic started. Where is the intermediary link? Nobody has been able to show us that intermediary link. Then a very curious thing happened. When this thing was going on, when the pandemic had started, if you will recall, there was that presidential campaign going on in the United States. President Donald Trump and his ministers, they said, look, there are chances that this could be genetically manipulated and it could have originated in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, right? So this was poo-pooed by a whole lot of people. And then I told you this 27 of the microbiologists got together to write this piece in Lancet. And that shut up everybody. Don't talk nonsense. This is just rumor mongering. This is just trying to create alarm and panic. The real fact is that it is a natural pandemic. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is, the person who led these people was a gentleman called Peter Daszak. You see, now this Peter Daszak is a very interesting man. He heads the Eco Health Alliance, which is an NGO. He's the CEO of that health alliance. Now, let me give you a bit of background. In the 2014 or something, the Americans had started research on trying to preempt nature, trying to preempt enemies by creating or souping up, viruses in the lab. Yeah? This was called a gain of function research. That means you anticipate nature and you create that virus in the lab, and then you test it out to create your vaccines, your medicines to counter it, because you gain time. So this is gain of function research. But then they found that in some of it, the water was leaking, the microbes were leaking out through the wastewater disposal of their laboratories. And in Obama's time, this research was banned from 2014 to 2017. Now, Dr. Fauci, who now heads the national, health, setup in the United States, he called Peter Daszak and asked him to outsource this research to China, Vietnam, and other countries. As part of this, he gave him a couple of $1 billion and he asked him to carry out, outsource this research, but continue. That by law it could not be continued in the US. So therefore, he said, please continue it in China, please continue it in other third world countries. So if it leaks out, it will affect the third world countries. It won't affect the United States. That was the cynical calculation. And then Peter Daszak went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and gave them money to carry out this research. They were already doing this research. He gave them money from the American side. And that is why the Americans were so cagey about opening out initially, because they knew that they had been funding this research in Wuhan. So if it leaked out from Wuhan, a bit of the blame comes also on them. So they were very cagey and very keen to give it certificates of good conduct to China. Now let me talk a little about the Wuhan Institute of Virology. You know who heads it? Two major generals from the uh, People's Liberation Army of China. Major General Zhang Li and Major General Sheng Li, Major General Sheng Li Major General Chen Yi. These are the top virologists of the People's Liberation Army of China. Run by military officers. AIMS in New Delhi is run by civilian. It is a civilian institute. Why is the Wuhan Institute of Virology headed by not one but two Chinese major generals? And a lot of the staff is the PLA, the army. Now let me give you some more nuggets of information. You know, in 2014, they found that some workers were sent in the Yunnan province of China to clean up disused copper mines. They were full of bats. And when these people who went to the workers, who 6 of them, they contracted a disease very similar to COVID. When their X-rays were done, they found the same COVID patches in their lungs, dark black, dark grey patches in their lungs on the X-ray. And those X-rays were put on the, the net, and that is how our people downloaded this and found it out. Now, the moment this happened, Major General Sheng Li, who's called the Bat Woman of China, she's an expert in bat-borne coronavirus. She quickly sent a team. She collected about 270 samples. And initially, they called it something else. But later, when the COVID broke out, it was found that this virus had a 96% match with COVID, genetic match. So in 2015 itself, Major General Shi Zhengli wrote a couple of papers, put them on the net, how this virus can be weaponized, how this virus we can do gain of function by taking the SARS hook molecule. You know, when a disease has to attack humans, it has to have a hook molecules which can attach to human cells, right? Without this hook molecule, you will not be infected. So when this hook molecule was not there. In the natural bat coronavirus, there was no hook molecule. Okay? Therefore, it could not spread. Those 6 workers were infected. That's it, it stopped. But she said, if I can splice the SARS hook molecule, protein molecule, onto the backbone of the bat coronavirus, it can become so dangerous. It can infect the whole world in a matter of weeks and months. So she wrote this paper. And by November 2015, she had created this COVID virus in her lab. 2015. Why had she created this COVID virus in her lab? There is another Chinese Air Force officer called Zhu Dezong, who is also an expert on virology and also an expert on biological warfare. In 2015, 2016, 2017, they were seriously worried that biological warfare is being waged against China. So he did a study along with 18 scientists. And then he presented his reports to the top Chinese leadership, including Xi Jinping. And they had 24 sessions. Can you imagine how important this was to China? That 24 times the Chinese top leadership sat around while they made their presentation. And what was the sum and substance of their presentation? That the SARS, epidemic has been made. The SARS virus has been created in a lab. It has been created to target China, and China is the victim of biological warfare, and therefore we should develop such capabilities to hit back. Now, right or wrong, what it shows you is the Chinese perception that they have been attacked with biological warfare. Therefore, they have all the right to hit back with biological warfare. This shows you the Chinese motivation for doing biological warfare. That is so crystal clear. And it was only after this study was published in China that they ordered the Wuhan Institute of Virology, तुम भी बनाओ, आप भी बनाइए biological warfare agent. Now, this report by Xu Dezong had, gone into details of how China can conduct biological warfare and protect itself against biological warfare. They had said, Bhaiya, that the new variety of viruses, they can be, freeze dried and stored for months and years in deep freeze, containers. And then they can be taken out and they can be put in frozen food and all that, sent to with the target country and aerosolized there, and it will spread and nobody will be able to trace it back to you. And the impact can be so shattering that it can collapse the medical system of the target country, create chaos, destroy the economy, have so many other effects. They said this is the ideal weapon. Ideal weapon. कोई आपको ट्रेस बैक नहीं कर सकता और you can cripple the other country either before an attack or just by using biological warfare, non-kinetic means. The Chinese have been talking of this kind of warfare since 1999. There were two Chinese senior colonels who wrote a book, Unrestricted Warfare, in which they talked of using terrorism and information warfare, chemical warfare, biological warfare to defeat a superpower like the United States. So there is a clear motivation, there is clear discussion. And then the 2017, the official Chinese military doctrine, the science of strategy, that was a new edition was published with a new chapter on biological warfare. A number of Chinese senior generals, they wrote papers, published, on how biological warfare can be used by weaponizing the virus to bring a country to its knees without firing a shot. All this is there in black and white. Now, China is a signatory to the Biological Warfare Convention, which bans the use of biological warfare. Says no country will carry out research in biological warfare. No country will have stockpiles of biological warfare weapons. Despite signing this, the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, and there are two institutes in Wuhan, itself has some 1,200 samples of viruses which are very, very, very dangerous, including the COVID-19 virus, the bat coronavirus. You see? Now, let's go over the sequence of events a bit. It is now known that in September, October 2019, some workers in the Wuhan Institute of Virology had become infected with a disease, a pneumonia, very like symptoms of COVID-19, and 3 of them died. But this was hushed up. They didn't tell the world; they just hushed it up, right? So this has now led to a strong speculation that this was an accidental release from their lab and not a natural virus. Okay. So then, China admitted to the first patient only on 8th of December 2019. 8th of December 2019. They said this is the first patient. And even then, till March, they hid the thing from the world. 3 months almost passed and they allowed it to spread all over the globe by hiding information. Any Chinese doctor who spoke up was infected with this and killed. Others were jailed. Sheng Li's papers, 4 papers on how to weaponize this virus were suddenly taken off the net. The total information ban on this. That is what is leading to the suspicion that something very, very nasty is happening in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. If this had started in September and they knew about this, they had developed their vaccines. In 2019, China passed an order making vaccines compulsory for all its citizens. There is no choice, you have to take. So did they already have the vaccine for COVID-19? And had they given it to their people even earlier? How is it that the infection, which they say started on 8th of December in Wuhan did not spread to Shanghai, which is 800 kilometers, or to Beijing, capital of China, which is 1000 kilometers from Wuhan. They put a very tight lockdown, stopped all traffic moving up and down. Very serious. The Chinese army imposed this lockdown. Please, the PLA imposed this lockdown. Why is the PLA so involved? And from the outset. And they had created, already put in place, they said, what a wonderful response of the totalitarian regimes compared to the weak democracies. They had already created the additional hospital devoted to COVID, etc., etc. They had uh, created, bought additional oxygenators and emergency wards had been created by them already. 8th of December it starts. 28th of December, the Chinese Navy and Air Force start major exercises against Taiwan, against Japan, against Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and in March 2020, they started the problem in Ladakh. Now, please tell me, if a country has suddenly become infected, as they say, with a natural pandemic, will you start getting militarily tough with all your neighbors? Is that the time you will choose, or will you say, ki, Bhaiya, we've got our hands full, we don't want any external problem? No, sir. 8th of December, patient zero. 28th of December, the Chinese start major aggressive moves against all their neighbors. Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, Southeast Asian countries included, and then India. And whom are they getting funny with in the South China Sea, in the East China Sea? United States Navy. So the United States also sent 4 carrier battle groups to warn them, and there were major face-offs on the sea, and the world was on the brink of a war. This is what led experts to conclude. Here is the Chinese have a military doctrine which says weaponize the virus, use it as for non-contact warfare or as a precursor to a military strike. Weaken the country before you strike. They have created devastation in the United States. They have created devastation in Europe, devastation in India. And then, the initial virus that came to India was the Wuhan virus, right? That was mild because what they had leaked out in their own country was the milder version. Then suddenly we deal with the first virus. India is feeling very happy. Oh, we have contained the virus and we can now help other countries. We started giving free vaccine to a lot of countries which were friendly to us, third world countries, poor countries, etc., etc. Suddenly we were hit by the second wave, the Delta variant. And they said it has come from India. It is the India virus. Look at that. But sir, where is it coming from? If you can freeze dry the virus, bring it in frozen food, come to any restaurant, open it there and spread it, go to any bathroom and spread it. Then it is now the circumstantial evidence is huge. Respected scientists like Nicholas Wade have now written in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, major scientific papers, that this is not a natural virus. It has been created in a lab. There is a British scientist and his colleague, who have published a paper saying we have examined this virus. Its genome makeup is now available on the net. So what we have found is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 positively charged amino acids which have been put together on the hook molecule. Now, anybody who knows a bit of physics or chemistry knows that positive charges repel one another. So even for 2 amino acids positively charged to come together is not possible in nature. But when 1, 2, 3, 4 are put together, then you know it has been made in a lab. Now, these papers are published by scientists. So, in about 3 months back, President Joe Biden gave an order to his intelligence agencies to find out who did it, find out whether it was made in a lab or whether it was an accidental leak. They never said deliberately whether it was an accidental leak or it was a deliberate. But they said just find out whether it was a natural virus or it was made in a lab. This was a task given to intelligence agency. But I'm very sorry to state that Joe Biden has disgraced himself and America for no rhyme or reason by running from Afghanistan. So the word is going around that if the Americans under Joe Biden can't fight the ragtag outfit like the Taliban, how will they take on the Chinese? And our suspicions have been proved right because the intelligence agencies have given a very tame report which has been hidden from the world back to Biden saying, we can't find this out without cooperation from the Chinese, without cooperation from the culprit who has waged biological warfare against the world. The circumstantial evidence is so damn strong. In January 2020, the Wuhan Institute of Virology had filed a use patent for remdesivir for use against corona. If the first victim happened on 8th of December, as they are saying, in just a month later you come out with the antidote medicine. Even to test medicine, it takes 6 months, 8 months, 1 year to do trials, and then you publish, you apply for a use patent. So that clearly shows they had created this, they knew about it, and they have released it. One theory is accidental release. The second theory is deliberate release. Now, to those who find the deliberate release theory a bit far-fetched, let me tell you how the Second World War started. By a deliberate, staged incident. In 1939, the Germans in Polish dress attacked one of their own posts on the border. And they said the Poles have done it, and as retaliation, they invaded Poland, started the Second World War. By a staged incident. How did the Japanese start the invasion of China? By the Mukden incident. Mukden is a place on the China-Manchuria border. The Japanese had occupied Manchuria, and then what they did was they staged an incident in which, in Chinese dress, their own troops attacked their own post, and they said the Chinese have done it, and as an excuse, they used this and they attacked China. Could be a major problem area that this could have been a deliberately staged accident. They had preparation. They had the antidote medicine in the remdesivir. They had the vaccine in place. Supposedly, they had given it to their people. Their top leadership definitely had it because Xi Jinping was seen in Wuhan without a mask.
Yes.
Without a mask. So how do you get this level of assurance? Just weeks after the pandemic started, right? So the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. Now a WHO team was sent to China. Who was part of that team? Peter Daszak, the man who had funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He should have recused himself. He has a commercial interest with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but obviously he gave a clean chit. The WHO gave a clean chit, the rest of the world protested. And when the team went to China, for 15 days they were quarantined in their hotel. They could not get out of the hotel. In that time, they vacuum cleaned the whole Wuhan laboratory. They were allowed to go there for 4 hours. They were not allowed to see the documentation, not allowed to see their computer files. They were not allowed to interview the people. They were not allowed to see blood samples or inspect the wastewater. So what bloody inspection? That is a joke.
Absolutely.
So China has inflicted the world with this, killed 4 million people and gotten away scot-free. And they have in the meantime given another such institute of virology to Pakistan, so that Pakistan can now start attacking India and the countries they don't like with viruses. They don't need to fight. That is why they are having peace talks with you. So that they'll say, oh, hum to peace talk kar rahe hain, and attack you with viruses. So it is a very dangerous scenario. That is why we wrote the book. Because at that time, a lot of this data had not come out in the open domain because we have contacts, we gotten the information. So we could not write it as such. Therefore, we forgave the scenario as to how it could have happened. And in the Tom Clancy tradition, to
Right.
spread the narrative to the civilians
Mm.
who do not know these issues, we
Mm.
wrote it as a fictional
Thank you very much.
scenario.
I think,
Uh,
thank you, sir. We are sort of running out of time now. And there's so many things to take away from here. And I hope that all our the visitors here are hearing you out. And I hope we can do a session again with a little longer time to get all this information that you have, which is extremely interesting. So I really appreciate your time today. And I hope we can do this once again at some point and take this conversation further. Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you. Jai Hind.
जय हिंद जी जय हिंद